Well, you know, and it started, I can remember the first break of that was when cartoon art became a big kind of thing, and most people were saying, it might be a nice picture, a nice drawing, but it's not art.
Well, yes, it is.
And now it's totally accepted.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a very rich viewing experience as an expression of culture.
Expression of color. I just love the color of it all. Yeah.
Yep. And it's, there are some fairly sophisticated visual structures within the cartoon genre or the graphic novel genre.
Is that what it is, graphic novel? Is that
you know, I mean, cartoons,
not,
you know,
they're not really cartoons.
Comics,
but,
and then there's graphic,
stuff.
and then there's graphic novels. And of course the Japanese are leading the way on this in so many ways.
Did you see, I saw on TV where they're giving concerts with a hologram figure dancing on stage in Japan.
Wow.
And she looks really good. You know, really moves smoothly like a real person. And this whole audience of real people, and she has a real band behind her, but then there's a hologram. And they're cheering just like it's a real person up there. And I'm thinking, well, maybe are we morphing from we don't know reality from, you know, makeup world, but I don't know.
And we may be.
I don't know.
And but somebody is a creative force behind that. There is there's somebody with a vision of how to draw that particular woman, how to photograph and make a composite of a woman, how to then do whatever the special effects are to make her move a certain way, and what the music is. So there's probably a team of creative individuals making that moment happen for that large crowd in an arena somewhere in Japan.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll see it here fairly soon. You never know.
No doubt.
But now the arts community is really influential in Brattleboro in many ways, helping it grow, helping it be an attraction place for people. But it also puts a pressure on the community to support many facets. Would you like to speak to any of that?
Well, it's a constant balancing act, as it were. I remember appearing in front of some committee years ago when I was the director of the museum, long before people started calling it the creative economy, etc. Just bringing some facts about, you know, how many jobs this is, what are the spending multipliers here, what happens when a person outside of your community comes to town to partake in one or more cultural offerings, and what they're leaving here in terms of the restaurant community, the gas, the hotels, you know, whether it's a day trip or not.
And their comeback,
you know, and that is a part of what you look at when you want to support culture within the context of your community. And then there's the sort of nonprofit factor that all of us are writing checks to multiple organizations to support what it is that we want in town. I always think it's important to look at things on multiple levels. My first and foremost consideration with supporting the arts in town across generations is really the intrinsic question. Where else can you go as an individual, as a family member, as a member of a community, to be in dialogue with no right or wrong answers, to just have a place where your imagination, your intellect, and your spirit are exercised, expanded, can be joyous, can be frustrated, can be elated, can be moved to tears, and then have some sort of spirited discussion with either yourself or your spouse, or your child, or your class, or your next door neighbor. And what does that do for you to expand what it means to be human? That's intrinsic to what the aesthetic experience is. And do you want those available in the context of your community, as opposed to going 2 hours to Boston to the Boston MFA, or 4 hours to Midtown Manhattan to get it? So there's your first question that you have to ask yourself when you want to become a member of an institution, or if a board of selectmen is looking at it and says, we're going to give nonprofit property tax relief to this particular organization, etc. The second is these various sets of educational things that come into play for young people in your community by having these sorts of things, and for educators in your community. And then the third thing are, what are all the residual economic benefits of having this in town?
Hotel, gas, that kind of stuff.
All that sort of stuff.
And I would think that what you just described is that perfect balance and networking of culture, business, desirability to live in an area that attracts people to an area.
Well, in fact, for years, Ms. Barbara Gentry would run down to the museum and pick up brochures, etc., to recruit docs and their families here.
Yeah, she would be on that same page.
And even if they don't really want to use it on a day-to-day basis because their thing is hockey, they like to know it's there, that they live in a town, they haven't cut themselves off from a town, in case that's what the children are interested in, something to do when the in-laws come to visit who don't say, well, you're living in the middle of nowhere. You know? And so it is really, for executive and professional recruitment, it's a good tool as well.
And you know, I think one of the things that really makes all that work is the smallness of the area, and that it doesn't take you, I mean, I can walk down to the museum.
Well,
we're very special.
An in-town neighborhood. What?
But even if you're driving from out of town,
It doesn't take long.
It doesn't take long, and there's no traffic. You know?
It's true.
I mean, that's a real gift in many ways, too, which makes it all doable and something you can do even at the end of a long work day. And so
well, and it's
so
a
forth.
wonderful walking town. Once you pull into the High Grove lot or our new parking garage or down to, if the museum parking lot is full, Marlborough College Graduate Center has 250 parking spaces right down on 140. And they're working on Malfunction Junction as we speak. But then, just on First Fridays, for example, when the town floods with people, even in bad weather, you can waltz from the museum to the Vermont Center for Photography and then stop at Amy's and see somebody else's show and then go to a Catherine Deanich's gallery and then you can wander into this restaurant, this gallery, that gallery. I mean, when Sally of Tom and Sally's had her little folk gallery attached to her chocolate business on Elliott Street, she and then William Hayes of the Hayes Gallery had this idea of starting a gallery walk. They came to me at the museum and like two or three other people. They were the prime movers. They pulled me right in on it when I was the director curator. And we did the first one, there were 6 of us. And by the next week, there were 10 of us. And it stayed 10, 12 for a number of years. Last time I looked,
everybody's got one.
I mean, there were like
Gallery
38 or 42.
What do you see as the future area in which the arts are going to, what do you see, how will we continue to grow or expand, or will we stay the same?
I think it will be at strategic alliances, and that's being encouraged in the kind of grants that are being written now, and major donors want to see that, you know, for instance, we did a big drawing show or a big print show, and we wanted to do some programming. So instead of doing the programming ourselves, we call up the River Gallery School and saying, we're doing this, would you organize a sketch crawl, we'll cross-promote it, we'll, you know, and so those kind of strategic alliances are, I think, very important.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mara. This has been a great interview.
My pleasure.
And we thank you for watching. You've been watching Neighbor to Neighbor. My name is Lynn Coram. I've been here with Mara Williams, the curator of our local Brattleboro Museum and Art Center, and we hope to see you on our next show.